doing nice big shifts like this one here is something I absolutely love about playing the cello. However, I do know for a lot of string players that is not the case, and big shifts really give them the jitters. Well, if that is you, stay tuned, because in this video I'm going to give you 3 tips that will help you to start nailing your shifts consistently. A very warm welcome to my channel. Maybe it's your first time here, maybe you have watched every single one of my videos. One way or another, it's great to have you. If you enjoy my content, please smash that like button, subscribe for more, and if you really enjoy it, you can now become one of the people who help me to keep this channel alive, kicking and growing by clicking onto the coffee link below, where you can leave me a little tip. If you would like to find out anything more about me, about my concerts, how to have lessons or online workshops with me, do head over to my website www.juliamorneweg.com or follow me on Instagram at cello_Julia. Now let's do some big shifting. Tip number 1 might sound really obvious, but from what I'm seeing in my teaching practice, it's something that a lot of people struggle with, and that is correct alignment of the arm. When we have got a big shift, it really is a little bit like taking a shot. You have to take aim, and you have got to make sure that the target is in the crosshairs and the barrel is straight before you fire that shot. Because guess what? Once a bullet has left the barrel, you can't ask it to go a little bit left or right. You've fired the shot, you fired the shot. And exactly the same is true for shifting. So, in other words, we need to make sure we know before we set off for our shift what arm level is required for our target note. So, for instance, the shift I just did in the intro, going from D to B. So the way I would practice that, first of all, is I would actually not start on the B. I will on the D. I will start on the B right away. So I'll try to play a B with my arm really well balanced. So I want that note to feel really supported. I literally want to feel like I'm sort of standing on the string and I could be there all day and nothing would knock me off. Yeah, so you can hear that when the arm is well supported, the cello resonates, it rings, everything is loose. So that is the arm level I have here. As you can see, arm is nice and straight. I can literally park my bow on it. So that is the arm level I want to be at when I arrive. Now, it therefore stands to reason that that is the arm level I already need to have at the point of departure from the note that I'm coming from. Because all we should be doing, coming back to the shot, so that is my trajectory. I'm going from here to there in a straight line. What I can't be doing is, while I'm trying to go up, also having to make lateral adjustments with the arm like that. So, because if I start making that adjustment too late while I'm already moving, I end up with 2 conflicting trajectories, and before you know it, the shift has spectacularly misfired. So what do? One more time. So we start with the target note where we want to get to, find the perfect arm position. We retrace our steps, pull it back, keep the arm at that level to the origin note. And as you can see here, I'm now playing that D with an arm that is substantially higher than it would be perhaps if I were just, you know, playing that D on its own, right? So I need to have my arm already set up for B. But then all I need to do is release, and there I am. So that is trick number 1 work on your alignment. So therefore, one of the things I would suggest is really doing especially lots of octave shifts, but work on them backwards, because usually people always start from the bottom and go, but try turning it around once and start. By the way, you also need to get comfortable really with hitting notes out of thin air, yeah? So, and if you have that confidence that you can hit the top note out of thin air, then you're much less worried about how to get there. So you start here, you've got the perfect arm level, down and back up. Every finger combination you can possibly imagine. Which finger, ultimately, it doesn't matter. The arm level will always be the same. Following hot on the heels of alignment is tip number 2, which is to release your grip. We have to be light on the string, yeah? What we absolutely can't have when we have to move a great distance is any sort of clamping in the hand that stops that movement from happening. And that actually is very closely related to tip number 1 about correct arm balance, because if you are properly balanced on the finger, on the string, you don't need to press. There's absolutely no gripping involved. You're just resting the arm on the note. Even when I'm doing that, I don't even have the string 100% down, like 80-85% is enough. And then, once we are ready to let go, 2 things need to happen. One is, especially when we're shifting upwards, we need to make sure we only use gravity. So what we're not doing is pushing with the arm, not at all. We just imagine there is there's a screw in the elbow, yeah? A screw you tighten and you loosen. So when you're ready to shift, loosen that screw and just let it go. And there you are. And of course you can control how quick you want that release to be. Do you want it to be, or do you want it to be? But it's always is a release. The arm is falling down through gravity. It's never being pushed. And the other thing that now needs to happen is I slightly ease off even more on the string pressure. So I don't keep, here's what happens if I keep the pressure down. First of all, you can hear really a lot of very, very heavy sliding, yeah? It's sort of proper, what I call meowing, yeah? And that is something which obviously, except for in very, very rare circumstances, we don't really want when we're shifting. So first thing, I'm ready to release. So what do I do? Ease off. So my finger will always stay on the string. It will never jump. There's never any jumping involved. It will never leave the string. But what does happen is that I'm disconnecting the string from the fingerboard. So it's a slightly same idea as when you're I think I've mentioned this before, when you're driving a manual car and you're putting the clutch down in order to shift gear, you're disconnecting the two plates, right? And then once you have arrived, you shifted gear and in your gear, you're letting the clutch come back up and they reconnect. And that's the same here. So the idea is a bit sort of clutch down, disconnect, and now release the arm. You've arrived, reconnect. Now that's a process which you have to practice hundreds and thousands of times, very, very slowly, talking yourself through the steps consciously. Again, this bit, bold print, red, underlined with sparkles around it. Talk yourself through the steps. If you want to learn to do something quickly, break it down into small parts and talk yourself through it. If you just try to do all the steps at once, you can practice it for 10 years and will never get any better at it. Yeah? So, now, here, one more time. Release. Imagine putting the clutch down. Disconnect string from fingerboard. Now, unlock the arm and let go. And the same in return, just very light pulling back when you're coming down. So nothing like that, just very, very gentle. You want to imagine that you have really got sort of Rolls-Royce engine hydraulics in your elbow joint here. Yeah? And if you train that, again, that will make a huge difference to your shifts. Tip number 3, and the most important one of all, and that one has got absolutely nothing to do with your left hand. That one is entirely about the bow. Yes, I would say north of 90% of shifts go wrong, not because of anything to do with the left hand, but because of what is happening in the bow. So let's delve into that topic a little bit more. In general, there's one rule, and that is the more challenging the task is in the left hand, the more you need to shift your attention to the bow, which may seem completely paradoxical, but that is how it is, yeah? Because the bow, as you know, a string player, that is our life support system, yeah? That is what to a wind, a brass player, a singer is their breath, yeah? If the breath support goes, everything else quite simply goes to hell in a handcart. Yeah, and that is the same with our bow. So in general, there is one concept that I teach to my students, and that is really when it comes to shifts, the bow is the master and the left hand really is the puppet, because our left hand will always take its cues from the bow, yeah? So if I have got a really nice controlled bow, which doesn't have any panic in it, you just you see, and then I release and my left hand can simply ride on that, and it's just a very soft glide, and the whole thing is supported by the bow. Yeah, shifting, make up lots of exercises like that, different combinations of notes, different combinations of fingers, and really just focus on getting an absolutely, when you're doing a shift on one bow on a slur, getting the perfectly calm bow. So if you have a calm bow, the shift will be calm as a result, yeah? So you can make up lots and lots and lots of exercises like that, creating, you know, different intervals. While I'm doing that, is almost like the pulling of the bow is what moves the left arm. Yeah, so they're not two separate entities. The mistake that everyone makes is that the bow is sort of what I call freewheeling. Yeah, it's just sort of idle, and then sort of you try to put the shift on top of that, and you worry about that, and then it becomes very, very wobbly. So the engine is always the bow. The bow is what is directing the shift, and even more so when the shift happens across a bow change. So now we're coming to something really important. So, and a lot of the big shifts that we have in the repertoire actually do happen on a bow change. Yeah, so something like that. Yeah. Now, the most important thing here is to be aware of the speed of the bow change. Yeah, because if I do this, and if I whack my bow around very, very, very quickly, the left hand is going to panic. What I need to do in order to make that shift secure, comfortable, the bow needs to make the left hand feel safe. And the way I do that is by doing the bow change very slowly, and that doesn't impact the speed of the music whatsoever. It just means I start thinking about the process earlier, and I'm not doing it late and in a jagged way. So the only thing when I have a really, really big shift, especially in a concert situation on stage, the only thing I think about is do the perfect bow change. It's almost sort of, I have this deal with myself. If you do the perfect bow change, the shift is gonna come for free. And that really, you completely rid your mind. You have already, you've practiced correct alignment, releasing the pressure thousands of times. That is in the system by now. Yeah, now, all I know that shift is down to one thing, and that is a perfect bow change. So that is the only thing I think about when I sit on stage and I have to do a big shift. Do the perfect bow change. Yeah, it's almost like I mentally give myself permission to miss a shift. Yeah, I kind of say to myself, you know what, even if you land Lord knows where, for as long as the bow change was good, that's cool. And so far, touch wood, that has served me very, very well. So that is something I want you to try. So aim for a really, really, really smooth bow change and see what that does to your shifts. Now, I do warn you that learning to really shift your focus away from the left hand and onto the bow is quite difficult. But for me, as I just said, the path to that is, especially when you're first learning this, when you're practicing, give yourself permission to miss lots and lots and lots and lots of notes. And I always say this to my students, and they don't really want to believe it. And I was like, look, you know what, the more wrong notes you play, the happier I'll be. And once they sort of get into that mindset, it's amazing, because suddenly the shifts just start working and there aren't actually any wrong notes. So those are my tips for big shifting. As usual, any questions, pop them into the comment section below, and I'll be happy to talk to you and answer them. And other than that, enjoy practicing your shifting. See you soon.